Okay, we're live.
Yep.
Yep.
We'll start in 4 minutes. So I'll start. My name's Mario Washburn, M-A-R-Y-A-W-A-S-H-B-U-R-N. I'll do that again if anyone doesn't have that yet. And then Mike Smith will speak again after me. And then he'll talk for a little bit about the basics of what happened today and the plan moving forward, and then I can answer questions at the end. We'll start in 3 minutes. I want to make sure our live is working.
What are your titles?
Do a mic check.
Yes, Mike Smith.
Mike Smith is the incident commander.
Incident
And
commander.
I am the public information officer for Boulder Fire. Boulder Fire Rescue, I should say.
Oh, yeah, there's...
If anyone's getting messages that our live isn't working, let me know. I haven't gotten confirmation, so we'll hope it is. We'll start in about a minute.
Okay.
Sounds like it's working. I'll give folks 30 seconds. Start on time. Okay, we're gonna get started. Once again, my name is Mario Washburn. I am the Public Information Officer for Boulder Fire Rescue. I'm gonna give you all a couple quick updates on the fire, and then Mike Smith, our incident commander today, is going to provide a little bit more overview of what happened today and the plan moving forward. After that, I'll answer some questions for a little bit if we have the time. So, at the current moment, we're estimating that the fire is contained at 35%. And we still have 189 acres from the MMA this morning. When we do another flight, we'll hopefully be able to update you all if that has changed. We still have no known injuries and no reported structures lost. We're estimating that there's about 150 firefighters and cooperating personnel that worked on the fire today, and approximately 30 agencies cooperating with us today. Once we have more details on that, we'll be sure to get that out. It might take us a couple days to gather all of that info of all the people that have helped us out the past couple of days. I'm gonna talk louder because there's a helicopter behind me. The only other update I have is that we hope to have more evacuation information for folks, an update on who might be able to go back and who has to stay out at some point this evening. So please have folks go to Boulder OEM and check that for information within the next couple of hours. 35%. Does anyone need any of those facts before I pass it off to Mike Smith?
150 firefighters.
Approximately, very approximate.
And how many helicopters, aircraft do you guys have?
I'll have Mike Smith answer some of that, yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Mike Smith. I'm the incident commander for the Boulder Incident Management Team, and today was a good day. After the events of yesterday, we had a tough day yesterday, and I think you all got to see that. A lot of good work was done yesterday. We're really happy to reinforce the point that we've lost no structures, that we've had no reportable injuries, and we continue to get a lot of good work done. This morning the weather was a little bit cooler, the wind was a little bit calmer, and as we moved through the day, we were happy to see that some of the winds that were forecast didn't actually come to fruition. So with that, we were able to make a lot of progress working our way around the fire. As you can see, there's a lot less smoke visible, and we're continuing to put line in around pretty much the entire flank. The eastern side of the fire and the southern side of the fire have got a lot of containment line around it. The numbers that Maria gave you, the percentage of containment, is just a direct effort from what was done on the ground. What we saw was a really amazing collaborative event where we had so many different agencies come in through this to help us with putting this together and keeping the fire away from the structures, making sure that we had the public evacuated appropriately, and the fact that we were able to affect the initial attack and now moving into the extended attack phase has been a really positive thing. So we're currently working with one helicopter overhead. We had 2 single engine air tankers available to us today, but we really didn't have a need to use them, and we always want to manage that risk versus the benefit of putting the aircraft in the air. So we were really getting a lot of good work done on the ground. You can see the helicopters doing a lot of good work for us, and we're pretty happy with where we're moving. As Maria alluded to, we're looking hard with our mutual aid partners, with law enforcement, and with all the different agencies to get public back into their homes as quickly as we can. We hope to have an update for you at some point this evening. I don't have a time, but we are looking very hard at getting areas repopulated that were evacuated. Those are the facts as I know it right now. I'm open to a couple questions before the next meeting I got to go to. So,
What's the difference between like a first attack and long-term attack?
So initial attack, like we saw yesterday when the fire starts, that's when the first engines come on scene. They make an estimate of what's going on and where we think it's going to go. And so for that first phase, what we call initial attack, that's where we're really building the systems and the foundation for the organization to come together. We make sure that our communications and all of our safety are in place, and that's rapidly escalating. As we move into the extended attack phase, as we call it, we've got a lot of those things, and we're really fine-tuning the organization and our organizational structure to best support the fire. So that's the difference between the two.
Are any homes currently in danger, like in that danger zone?
Currently, we feel very good about our containment on the sides of the fire on the east and the south. And so we are feeling very good that we are moving out of the phase where we're considering homes to be directly threatened. What we're trying to do now is make sure that all the firefighting resources have got everything really well buttoned up, so that before we allow the public back in, that we feel really good about that. So currently we're moving in the right direction, and we hope to get public back in really soon. I know it's an inconvenience for everybody. We just need to balance the safety of the firefighters, making sure they can get their work done before we get the public back in.
We're hearing that a campfire may have been the cause for this. Is that true?
The sheriff's department is doing the investigation. It's my job to fight the fire. They're working really hard on that. I know that they've got some areas that they're looking really hard at, but all I can say is it's under investigation.
Also, with letting people know when they can go back in, I know there was some issues with alerting further ranges with evacuations, telling people that were in not danger areas that they got the alerts. How do you plan on fixing that in the future?
I'm going to push that one back to Maria because she's a little bit more dialed in on that. We push that information to our partners that are in charge of pushing that information. We ask them to evacuate a certain area, and there is a margin for error in that. but I do feel like we got the people out of the way in an appropriate amount of time. But again, I'll let Maria drill down on the details of that. Anybody else?
Some people are saying that a silver lining of this is that some of the brush got burned off, so that might help with future fires. Do you see it that way, or is that just not the way you look at it?
Well, one of my primary jobs for the City of Boulder Fire Department is the prescribed fire side of things. So anytime that we can put fire on that we have fire on the landscape, and we don't lose structures, and we have no injuries or life lost, we can see that there is an upside to it. We never like to see this in an emergency situation. We'd much rather plan this and go through the process. But there will be some benefits for this going forward, that a lot of the understory has burned very nicely. And the fact that we kept it out of the city and out of the structures and nobody got hurt, it's a really good thing. So I don't want to say that any wildfire is good, but I think there are upsides to this. Anybody else?
Can you walk us through why, because this morning you mentioned that the airplanes were really helpful.
Yep.
Can you walk us through why they weren't used this afternoon, kind of that thought process?
Yeah, so just like there's a proper tool for every job. And so where the fire was actively burning this morning and it wasn't really active, that's not really the tool to use for suppressing the fire. What we really need is that helicopter to get a little bit more specific, because they can fly overhead. They can put the water specifically where the firefighters on the ground are asking them to put it. It's a more precise tool versus putting retardant on the ground is a little bit more of a broad scale blunt tool. So that's really the reason why we had it still available to us. It is still in our pocket available, but again, it's all about managing risk versus benefit.
The way that the fire's burning now, the direction that it is there no more threat to homes or anything like that? Is that sort of left behind now?
Well, the fact that we are still we're static on our acreage, 189 acres is what we reported this morning. That's still what we're showing. So we've basically stopped forward progress. We continue to reassess and make sure that our perimeter is controlled. So we will start working on the outside of this thing. We get a perimeter on it, and then we start working our way in. What I will tell you is that there will be smoke visible on this thing probably for the next week, but I feel very good about the containment portion of this, and you'll see the percentages go up rapidly, especially as we get into Tuesday, as we're expecting some moisture to come into the area.
Any firefighting challenges you see moving forward?
That's a big question. I think, looking at the season, we've got all sorts of things, but if you're speaking more directly to this, I think that we're in a really good position. We just need to continue to get the resources, the people, and the apparatus in the right places. We've definitely got fire in some real billy goat country, and that's where some more specific hand crew work will be done. You can't really drive an engine up to a lot of the places where this fire is, so we're just going to continue to work at it, but we're getting good stuff done.
I know winds were a factor. How has recent snowfall impacted the spread of this fire?
Well, you can still see a bunch of snow within the fire footprint, and that was one of the things that was on our side, and one of the reasons that, where there wasn't snow, we saw the fire stand up, and as it got into some of the snowier, wetter areas, we got to see the fire drop back down to the ground, and in some cases just stop. So the snow is certainly helpful. I wish we would get more. I will take any of the moisture that Mother Nature is willing to give us. So that's all I got. I'll give it back to Maria. Thanks, everybody.
Sorry, did you say, hey Mike, what did you say, what's the containment on it? I didn't catch that.
35%. 35.
Thank you. Thanks.
So a couple questions that came up. The WEA information on that question, I forgot who asked it. But I like showing up when the helicopter does. We're just gonna pause for a second. Okay, I'll talk very loudly. Oh, I'll let you film it. Go for it. Sorry. Okay. So the Boulder OEM on their website did put out information about explaining the discrepancies between a wireless emergency alert activation for evacuations and then an Everbridge activation for evacuations. There are two different ways to tell people, hey, this is what's going on, please be aware and do X, Y, Z. And in those alerts, we put at the end, please now go to this Twitter page with Boulder PD in order to get more information, because we know that WEA, the way those alerts work, it will go a slightly broader area because of how they function. And for us, we're comfortable with getting more folks if we have to, so that we make sure we get everybody. We don't want to not get everybody. Pause. So that's kind of the basics of WEA. When you go into the nuances of folks wondering why they didn't get it and someone else did, there's lots of variables that go into that. You can often have to figure that out with your personal cell phone provider and figure out what your cell phone does. I'm being upstaged by the helicopter. I fully acknowledge this. And then I wanted to remind folks that as we continue to update evacuation information, some of that evacuation information are trails that are closed. If those trails are closed by open space and mountain parks, please honor that. They're closed because firefighters are working on the fire line in that area, and if you get in there, we have to divert our attention to that. So please stay out of the closed trails when those are posted. And we will have more. I'm gonna say this real quick because then that's it, and then you can ask questions. We're gonna have more information for the press tomorrow. We don't plan on having any more tonight for a press conference, and we'll figure out what time that will be and make sure that everybody knows. Tonight, check OEM for information on the evacuation map. We're hoping we can get that out like Mike Smith said. And if there's any more questions, let me know.
So similar to what she asked, I mean, we did receive some complaints of people saying that those emergency notifications came too late, an hour and a half after the fire had started, and that scope was too wide. I mean, what's your response to those complaints?
Yeah, I don't have enough information on what the specifics of what actually happened for those folks. I think if they have individual concerns of why or why not, they can look into whether or not they're enrolled in Everbridge. That's a good thing to check for sure. Always enroll in Everbridge if you can. And then if they don't feel like they got the WEA and they should have, talking to your local, your cell phone provider is a good way to see what kind of software your personal cell phone has.
Do you think at this point we need to refine the way our notification system is working to not alert and panic people?
The way the technology is right now, that's not possible. So it will always go broader because of the way it works in cell phone towers. And there's a bit more information about that with specifics in that OEM post. So you can read that to get a bit more details than I'm able to do right now. Yeah.
Could you speak a little bit more broadly if you can? I mean, yesterday was one of the warmest days we've had in a while. Is this something that we're just going to get used to now whenever the weather gets warmer, drier, and we can anticipate a high risk like this?
Right. I am not a climate expert. I think talking to climate experts to get that information, and like Mike Smith said, we're thinking about fire every day, so we're always conscious of the possibility. Any other questions?
Is there any other resources that are being provided right now that have been added on in the past, I don't know, few hours besides the shelter and help with animals and such?
Not that I'm aware of, and we might find out about a resource that we had that we weren't aware of the first couple of days.
How long is the shelter going to be open?
The shelter will remain open until evacuations are in place, and then I believe there will still be additional resources for folks that OEM will post even if evacuations are lifted.
How many more days are we expecting crews to be out here?
I am not able to answer that. I wish I could, but I'm not able to predict that. Any other questions? Okay, sounds good. We will update folks on the next press conference for tomorrow.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you all.